this issue of sustainable consumption in particular is quite controversial for consumer societies, for industrialized, market-based communities or countries, that civil society is there actually as a kind of reminder that, hey, this is an agenda that we need to address. And for example, if we look at what's been happening since the economic crisis, the energy crisis, the social crisis, the governments have started talking more about green growth or sustainable growth rather than just growth, period. And so I think in civil society organizations, part of our role is holding the governments to that and saying, okay, what do we mean by that? It's not just greenwashing, making something more efficient and saying that's green growth. No, actually, we really need to discuss this issue of growth.
I think one of the quite interesting trends that starts to be emerging over the last few years is a possible rejection of the role of some of the larger civil society or green NGOs, particularly attached to this agenda. And what we've seen is the start of the so-called transition town movement in the UK, and also very innovative activities, for example, guerrilla gardening in Germany, where you've got young people, the dead of night, going out and planting gardens in cities where there's been no, flora, flowers or anything. So there's this grassroots activity starting to emerge in certain places that isn't necessarily attached to those large civil society organisations, but it's maybe representing some growing interest by civil society, but in relation to things they can do locally.
There's a lot of people at this event interested in the idea of prosperity without growth. How do we create a society that meets people's needs without increasing the use of non-renewable resources, which we can't do forever, and increasing economic growth and pollution? Some people will say we can disconnect economic growth and resource use. Other people are saying we need to be much more radical in our approaches. And I don't think we can just take a little step from work on eco-efficiency to work on something much more fundamental. I think we almost need to consciously create a new space for dialogue, for discussion, for research, and then for action. And I think in the past, NGOs and civil society groups have been very good at opening up those new areas. After all, if we go back in history, we can see that the end of slavery in the UK came about through one tiny group of people, a civil society group, who were prepared to say, we need a fundamental change. And at that point, slavery was a hugely important part of the economy. So those people took a big step and said, we want to open up a whole new area. A few years later, that was being discussed in Parliament. The same with votes for women. A lot of the really innovative policies have come about through action by civil society. And civil society has taken a bold step into a whole new area. And I think that's where the future is on this agenda.
In terms of, let's say, current opportunities, what's out there available to us at the moment, although it can be quite frightening, let's say, in terms of the multiple crises that we're facing with the economic crisis, the energy crisis, and social crises, I think there's an opportunity there really in making some serious changes in our behavior, about reconnecting again to the local communities, to the things that really matter to us. In a lot of ways, we've spent the last, let's say, 50, 60 years, but very much in the last 20 years, with a lot more marketing about, oh, in order to be sexy, you have to have, all of these different consumption messages, where people, I think, to begin with, it sounds quite fun and exciting. You can redo your sitting room or redo your kitchen or, buy another car or whatever it is. And there's a lot of technological advance that makes things more exciting. But after time, what you realize is it's not actually, it doesn't really make you happier. And what does make you happier is better relationships with, your friends, with your family, having the time to do the things that matter more. And so that to me is an opportunity, a prime opportunity for sustainable consumption and production, to say, really, what are the things that matter to us most? Can we do more of that rather than just buying more stuff?
I will say that if politicians, and I'm not a politician, have to develop not a vision but a practical approach how to bring civil society as a specific form of action more in the political arena. At the moment we are talking in Germany on the one side on how to increase social engagement, and on the other side we talking on the lack of engagement. So, but to bring this agenda together, to say I think there's in Germany a lot of social capital for SCP within business, within civil society, but we are lacking to bring it in clear political formats, to attract not only the people by marketing, but to attract, to innovate on their place of living. And I think this understanding is not in the current discussion on SCP at the moment. We are talking a lot of instruments, but we are not talking on framework setting, how to better link daily life and the need for change with a long-term vision of sustainability.
The aim what we had for the project was really to create a platform for different people to come together to discuss about issues related to sustainability, and I think we have reached this goal quite well. So we have had a lot of inspiring discussions on different topics, for example related to food, housing and mobility, which are the most important ones in terms of environmental impacts. But of course what is then important as well is to how to get into practice, and what is the concrete outcome of all this discussion, and how to get from dialogue to action as well. So what we have done in this conference now, that we have collected different cases and ideas produced, we will publish them online, and hope that many people get inspired and also bring some new ideas, results back home from the conference.